with the first pick in the NFL draft.
Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Draft Show. Adam and I are back again once with a top 10. This time it's the tight ends. Adam, the tight end class this year, some players to get excited about. I think last year we had Brock Bowers, who was an elite prospect, and a load of guys that were good. This year I think we've got maybe 5 or 6 that can really make a difference in the NFL. How do you feel about this tight end class?
Yeah, there's quite a few, isn't there, that actually look decent. I think there's probably, like you say, 5 or 6 that you feel like have got a really good chance of sort of kicking on and staying around for a good few years, compared to some of the other ones. Like you say, last year it was very much Brock Bowers. I don't think we've got a Brock Bowers in here, I have to say, but I feel like we've got certainly more depth this time compared to what we had last year, and some of them look pretty good. And to be honest, even the ones that we've sort of got a little bit lower, sort of near the beginning of this list, or like 10 and 9 and that sort of thing, they look all right as well. So yeah, there's quite a few guys here that your teams will be good. It'd be good to get on your teams.
Yeah, I think when you're evaluating tight ends, you've got to kind of move fantasy out of your brain and move NFL in, because I think you don't necessarily, when you're just watching tape, you don't necessarily just like watch some of the blocking. You watch like all of the highlights, how their route tree, their catching ability, and you miss some of the blocking tape, which is somewhat what these guys do a lot of the time. They're not necessarily all catchers, but I think there is some really good. You got those 2 different types, haven't you? You've got the ones that can block, the ones that can catch, and I think you've got a good mix in here to go through. So, yeah, I think we'll jump straight into it at our number 10. And at number 10, we have Brant Kuithe from the Utah Utes. He's 25, he's 6'2", he's 236 pounds. Last year, he had 35 receptions, 505 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Adam, I thought this guy was really good. Yards after the catch, breaking tackles, really strong hands. But he does remind me a little bit more of a large slot receiver than an inline tight end. But what's your take on this guy?
Yeah, I think that was kind of where I was going with it. He does have really good hands, very reliable, great catch radius, good yards after the catch. He can pretty much play anywhere. And so that's he's got that versatility about him that's really good. Really liked his route running, felt that he did that really well and that he was quite smooth with that. He's got lots of acceleration as well, which some of these guys maybe don't have it quite as much, but he does. Really hard worker, in fairness to him. He's up for the fight. He's willing to take hits. He's willing to get involved in that side of the game, which is obviously important. But he does kind of lack the size and the strength, and he isn't your sort of regular sized tight end. When it comes to the 50-50 balls and the contested catches, it does feel a little bit like he's willing to go in for it. He just doesn't have the strength to necessarily rip it away from the defender. I think he struggles a little bit in pass protection and blocking just in general. It's not really his game. And I did also, I noted that he's had quite a few medical issues dating back to 2022, which is probably going to knock him down the draft board quite a bit when you've got quite a few good tight ends in this class. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's a day 3 guy, I have to say. I think we're probably looking round 5 on this guy. I don't really think he's going to be that early on day 3. He is a big slot receiver. That's how I looked at him. He kind of reminded me of Chig Okonkwo a little bit. I felt like he's that sort of like height and size. And when I think of Okonkwo, he's kind of that sort of big slot receiver that if it all opens up for him, he can have a big play, but then he'll disappear and not really do anything for a long time. So, yeah, I think that Kuithe has the potential. I mean, he could probably put on more weight and put on more muscle during his time in the NFL. I think, obviously, the whole pass protection and blocking can be sort of like improved through coaching. So that's something So I do actually think there is potential here for him, and that he could become something and be better than, say, like 10 out of the guys in this class. But at the moment, it kind of feels very much like he's only really going to work if a team want a big slot wide receiver rather than a tight end. So yeah, he has limitations, but he could become something, I think.
Yeah, he's going to be a good sort of change up tight end if someone's already got a really strong big guy to play on the other side, because I do think his yak ability is a really good plus side for him, and the fact that he breaking tackles and things, he can play that role. So I think there is a spot for him in the NFL, but it's more of a tight end 2 than a tight end 1 on someone's team. But yeah, definitely lots to like about him. At number 9, Adam, we have got Oronde Gadsden. I always try to say something different when I try and say his surname. I tried it a few times, but I really, really like this guy. Saw quite a bit of him, watched a bit of Syracuse. Obviously, we had Carl McCord already done on the quarterback show, so you've seen the ball go to him quite a bit. Age 21, 6'5", 243 pounds. Last year, 73 catches, 934 yards, 7 touchdowns. Yeah, I'm really high on this guy, Adam, but I'll let you take the points first.
Yeah, I think from what I could see, he's got really good burst and acceleration. I think his route running is decent, and that he has good reliable hands, and he does have yards after the catch. He can do that as well. So he's got them things going for him. He really excels at contested catches. He's very good at that. And he kind of has that sort of like hard battler type personality where he's like, to a certain degree, he wants the contact. He's happy to take it, and that isn't a problem. So I do feel like he has the potential to really kick on and do something here. I don't think I think you've probably got him in the right spot. I don't think I'd have him any higher than where he is, because a lot of this is kind of like potential rather than that he's actually can do it now. I felt like his change of direction wasn't particularly great. I think he struggles a little bit with that. He certainly struggles to block. That's something that he doesn't do much of. His hand placements are kind of completely in the wrong place. So, but again, you see the whole blocking thing is something that he can be taught and can learn more in the NFL. I kind of felt like his lower body strength was missing a little bit. Like that's something that it kind of felt like. And if he got that, I think everything would improve, especially like the blocking and stuff like that. I found like he got pushed back far too much and too quickly. And then obviously he's only played 1 full season, so that is a slight concern, obviously, with the durability. He had the Liz Frank injury in 2023. Again, I think this is another day 3 guy. I think maybe a bit earlier though than what Kuthi is. I think like around 4, I think is good for him. I think he has potential. He kind of reminds me a little bit, and this is like when you look at him now, obviously it's a stupid comparison, but he kind of reminds me a little bit of Trey McBride when he came out. So I do feel like he's got a bit of that in him. But I think it's just the one thing that I think is the biggest concern is just the fact that when he does try and block, he gets pushed back far too quickly, and it is that lower body strength. If he can get that sorted, I think again we've got another guy here who could really do something. So yeah, I think he's got solid wide tight end ability. I just don't think that he's going to suddenly shoot up and be amazing.
Yeah, a bit of conditioning, I think, from the NFL guys would be good. I think the fact that he used to be a full-time wide receiver before he turned.
Yeah, well, that makes sense that you can see that.
And I think what I really, really liked about him was he can make all the catches. You said contested catches, which is definitely a plus side, but he gets the ball at the high point. He can make back shoulder catches as well. Really good at absorbing like contact when he does get hit. Explosive, and his speed is there as well. So I think, I saw a bit more Darren Waller in him than anyone. I thought that was kind of like, I see glimpses of that type of player from him, but the blocking really, really lets him down here. Otherwise, I think we'd have him a lot higher on the list if his blocking was better because of his size, because he's got great size. But I think that fact that he's just so big and such a good receiver that I think he's definitely got a spot in the NFL, because he's going to make those catches over the middle, and he's got the size for that. So that's definitely something is becoming big in the NFL, catches over the middle. So I really like him. I think his stock might rise a little bit going a bit closer to the draft, but I think we've got him about the right position on this list.
I think him and Kuthi, I really think, have got the ability to sort of like kick on with a bit of polishing. I think they really could do something.
Next up on this list, we have got Jake Brigenstall from Clemson, 21 years old, 6'6", 241 pounds last year, 49 catches, 530 yards, 7 touchdowns. Lots to like about this guy. A little bit more of, I'd say, traditional tight end. Got a bit more in that, he's a better blocker than the previous two that we've just done. Adam, what do you like about him?
I think that he's got a big frame, good catch radius, and I kind of feel like he's a bit of a red zone guy. He's kind of got the contested catches, which kind of makes sense with his height. I think that's definitely something that he's all right at. He's a pretty strong route runner. I think he's all right with that. His hands are good. I think he's quite a clever player. I think he processes things quite quickly, in fairness, compared to some of the other guys that we've spoken about already. I think that he's definitely got the brain for it. I actually felt like he can't block very well. I didn't think his blocking was great. I think he lacks strength in general. He's kind of a bit underweight with his frame. It doesn't make a lot of. He looks quite slender, and it kind of makes me worried a little bit with his durability, because I feel like he needs to put on some serious muscle in order to really kick on here. I've noticed that when defenders get physical with him, he does tend to struggle a little bit with that side of the game. He struggles to break the tackles. I wasn't overly impressed with his yards after the catch. I think he's got a bit of it, but I don't think he's got loads of it. And I think, really, for me, I probably would have had him below the previous two after watching him. I think he's a day 3 guy. I think he's a round 5 guy myself. My comparison, I think, is if he needs to put more weight on in order for this comparison to make sense. But I kind of had Cade Otton as a comparison for him, and I just feel like he's too slim to play tight end. I think he needs to get some more weight on him, and I think if he does that, then he'll be all right. But there's some kind of big red flags, I think, with this guy, which is a bit concerning.
I had down on my list from watching him that security blanket. I thought he was a really, really good security blanket for Cade Klubnik. I thought, whenever he was needed, he was there. And I think that's kind of what the tight end role is sometimes. Unless you're a Kelsey or a Kittle or a Mark Andrews, you're kind of that guy that's out there being a security blanket, being that person that's open when nothing else is on and things like that. And I thought that's what he did well. So this is why I say he's a bit more traditional than sort of like the elite tight ends that you get in the NFL. So I think he's going to be a really good bit part. He's not going to light up the world too much, but I think he's going to really make a good key piece to a team. Like I say, I think explosive, good hands and security blanket make him a solid option to go for. In at number 7, we have got Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green Falcons. Adam, this is my Cam Scatterboo of the tight end. So if you watch the tape and you put it on, I mean, there's loads to love. Stats: 117 catches, 1,555 yards, 10 touchdowns. So it's all there. The production is there. Yes, it was for Bowling Green, and maybe a lot of the teams weren't fantastic. I mean, he did play well against Penn State and he did play well against Texas A&M, but he's not fast. He's not overly that big and his size isn't really there. He's not massively tough. Blocking isn't great, but you can't discredit what he achieved in, I think he broke a load of tight end records for FBS. So it's a really tough one to evaluate because the production is there. He did it against two good teams, and whenever you watch it, he got the ball and he got it in the end zone and ran with it. But it's just not really great at anything, but the stats are there.
Yeah, he's kind of a big play highlight reel, isn't he? Is what you get when you look at the tape. I think he's great for his yak is great. He has these big strides which kind of to a certain degree resemble like Ted McMillan, the way that he just eats up the ground very, very quickly when he does get free. I think his speed is okay, but I think it's more the stride length that is what is getting him there quicker when you think about it, rather than he's actually fast. He can play. He
wasn't very good, was it? At the
no, it wasn't brilliant. So he can play as an outside wide receiver. He's got scheme versatile in that respect. I think he's got some quite nice moves. His shoulder head feints that he does. I think he gets past people because of that. Okay. He's blocking, like you say, not great. It's okay. My biggest concerns with him is that he just doesn't have much strength or power. That's the real issue with him. I feel like he's quite limited in that area. I think his footwork could improve, that's for sure. And then obviously the biggest thing that a lot of people will level at him is that he just hasn't played NFL caliber opponents because he's played for Bowling Green. So it's very difficult to really judge him, like you say. It is tough. I think he's going to go quite high.
Yeah,
I think a team will gamble.
Yeah,
because if you look at, I know that he's thought he wasn't fantastic, and you look at kind of his combine stuff, and some of it was okay, but it's not amazing. I think the difference is that you look at the highlight reel, which is basically you look at the tape, and there's so many big explosive plays that I just feel like someone is gonna gamble on him and think that he's worth it. He's worth the bet here. So I really think end of round 2, I see this guy going, and I think he's going to be much higher than what we've got him as in 7th here. I think there will be teams out there that will have him as the 3rd tight end, and will love him and will just sort of like look at him and think that he's wonderful. So it is a very difficult one. He kind of reminded me of Jatavian Sanders a little bit, the one out of Carolina. Similar. I feel like that was my comparison for him, but I kind of found him a little bit difficult to come up with a comparison for him, to be honest, because I don't know, he is a bit different.
I got 2 comparisons down. I think it's mainly more his size and what he's done. I thought Juwan Johnson's a very similar height and size, does as a similar role, and Evan Ingram's kind of that sort of role that he played, and is on the smaller side for a tight end as well. But it's very difficult to get a nail on sort of comparison for him, and it's also, this is why I compared him to Cam Scatterboo. We didn't have him near the top, but some people have got him near the top, and it's the same with Fannin. Some people have got him right up there at like you say, tight end 3, and some people have got him where we've got him. He's just the spectrum for this guy. No one really knows whether it's going to translate, do they?
No, I mean when we first were going through it, and I was looking at you sort of picked out your list and stuff like that, and we were looking at the top 10, and at the time when I first watched the tape, that was when there were people talking about him as the number 3 before
A lot of people thought he was going to return. He's the youngest of the tight ends, I believe, going into this. So I think when we first did the list, we didn't even have him on it because I just assumed he was returning back to college, going to have another year. But he's declared early and off a great season. It's probably a sensible thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's that was So we kind of had him at that point where it was like, he wasn't really, but lots of people were building him up as the tight end 3 before the combine. So I sort of looked at the tape on that, and you just kind of go, I don't really see it myself. But I can understand why a lot of people do, because I think the thing is they see all these big plays and go, oh my God, he's amazing. So I think that's basically what it is. But there's definitely better, I think, anyway.
Yeah, and next up is a guy that you really like, and that is number 6. We've got Elijah Arroyo from the Miami Hurricanes. How many Miami Hurricanes have we done now? Is this one in every single show?
I think so,
age 21, 6'5", 250 pounds. Last year, 35 receptions, 580 yards, 7 touchdowns. I had down big, fast, good hands, blocking okay. So if I just told you those things, you're going, NFL would love that, don't you? Big, fast, good hands. That's what you want from a tight end. But there's only 1 year of production, and he had a really, really good Senior Bowl, and then his draft stock slipped massively. So I don't know whether at the combine, the medical team have flagged some issues up because he has had a lot of injuries, but taking that away, Adam, there's lots to like about this guy.
Yeah, so he didn't do much at the combine. He had his measurements and then he did a 40, and I think that was pretty much it. He did a 4.69 though, so it wasn't too bad for a tight end. I mean, I really like this guy. I think I genuinely think this is the one who could be huge. Like, he really could. Something really impressive could happen here. He's got great length, really good catch radius. His hands, really strong hands. Kind of like a natural receiver, but he's kind of, in a way, he's a big play guy in the same way that Fanning is. But I just feel like this guy has more about him. Versatile player, can play anywhere. Really good contact balance. That's something that I think he kind of has over a lot of them. He's good for yards after the catch. He can separate. That's a bonus. Really good footwork as well. So I mean, he's literally got pretty much everything that you want from a tight end here. He genuinely, I think he could be really, really like a big name in years to come. When it comes to weaknesses, I think he could be a little bit sharper in his route running. I think his blocking could be better, but that's kind of things that can be trained up. So they're not really big weaknesses. Then you have the 2 massive problems, which are, it's a very small sample size. And the reason it's a very small sample size is because he's had multiple injuries. He had an ACL injury in 2022 in his left knee. He's had other problems with his left knee. This is really going to be a case of, if this guy's body can deal with it, then he's going to be great. And if it can't, then he's just not really going to do a lot. So I personally think he's a day 2 guy. I think that he will drop a little bit, probably the back of the 3rd, because I just feel like there are a few people that are a bit concerned regarding the injuries, and that will put teams off. But I really like everything about him. Kind of reminds me of Pat Freiermuth a little bit. I think he's got a bit of that about him. And he could be special if his body lets him.
Yeah, the fact that he has, he didn't do anything wrong. Only good production this year and at the Shrine Bowl. So the fact that its stock has dropped, I do honestly think something's flagged up in medicals. So that is quite alarming. Otherwise, I think you're right. I think he's going to be a bit of a steal. Like I say, everything's there to like from him. So no reason why this guy, if he can stay fit, we've seen other players, if he has a good start, good rookie year, there's hopefully, fingers crossed, it all goes well for him. But yeah, those injuries are going to be a bit of concern for teams. So in at number 5, our top 5, number 5 is Terrence Ferguson from the Oregon Ducks. He's 22, 6'5", 247 pounds. Last year's stats were 43 catches, 591 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Adam, are you a fan of this guy? I mean, I watched a lot of Oregon. They were on the telly a lot. They were another one of those teams that you got to see a lot of. And he just seemed to be always doing something I liked in those games. So what's your take on him, who has gone to the tape a bit more than me?
I think probably the nicest word is solid. I think he's very sort of reliable and solid and good. Like, everything's good about him. His size but he's got good size, but he is still athletic. I think he's got acceleration, reliable hands. He's a bit of a red zone guy as well because of his height. He can play pretty much anywhere. He's willing to block. He's not amazing at it, but he is willing to do it, and he really does try. He's got good yards after the catch as well. So he kind of has everything that you want. None of it is special, but it's all kind of like good. He doesn't really have any sort of top speed. I wouldn't say he's particularly explosive. He doesn't maintain his blocks. He's sort of like, he blocks and then gives up on them pretty quick, but he like I say, he's willing to do it. He just doesn't maintain it. His contact balance is a bit iffy. He does go down a little bit or what comes across as a bit too easily. I think if you're looking for a reliable tight end, I think he's good for that. I don't think there's any sort of like sparks with him. I don't think you're gonna get like I know, like you say, we got to go away from fantasy and all that. I don't see him being like the tight end 2 or anything like that in fantasy. He's just going to be a bit of a solid guy for a team. I think if you want to tight end 2 for your team, then he would be ideal for that. And I think he's willing to give everything a go, and he does it all at a good standard, just not a great one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really solid player. I think that's a fair assessment. I think taking with his size and the fact he is good after the catch, I thought his blocking was okay. I thought his blocking.
Yeah, it's like I say, he tries and he's decent at it. It's just it could be. I think the thing, the school report is could be better on everything. That's what it probably is.
Easily distracted, talks too much, could do better. That sounds familiar.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, in at number 4, we have got Mason Taylor from LSU Tigers. He's the son of Jason Taylor. He is 6'5", 251 pounds. Last year, 55 receptions, 546 yards, 2 touchdowns. The NFL really likes this guy. The NFL's really, really high on him. There's as soon as all the reports come out, this is the guy you're going to start hearing more and more about. I like him. I liked what I saw. I thought, it's another one that I've seen a lot of with this time that he's had at LSU. It might be some similar things to what we say about the previous person. I think that for me, I'm going to let you go through the attributes, but I think this guy's got a really, really high floor.
Yeah, I can kind of see where you say that, and I think that he is actually quite similar to Terrence Ferguson in a lot of the stuff that he does. He is a great pass catcher. He does have reliable hands. He is quite a smooth route runner, and he has yards after the catch. And he's kind of like, again, he's sort of like good at all of them things. I do feel like he has a couple of things that are different. I think he separates a little bit better than what Terrence Ferguson does. I think he's got a bit more balance, especially when he's getting contact up against him. I think he's a bit better at that. but again, his long speed isn't great, but it's okay. His blocking is okay, but he does get pushed back a bit more. I feel like he should be better in the red zone than what he is because of his height and his weight. So I'm a little surprised that that's not better. Yeah, I feel like they're kind of similar. I feel like they're both sort of like end of round 3 kind of guys where they're going to be good for a team, but they're not going to be anything special. And that just kind of what comes across. I had Cade Stover for him, your old guy. I feel like that's the sort of person that we're talking about here, and we were with the previous one. So yeah, neither of them are exciting, but they're solid and they're good at what they do, and I think NFL teams will like the reliability of them, and that's why they'll probably go before day through.
Yeah, what I really liked about him was I felt like he was always where he was supposed to be on and every play he was, which I thought was really, really smart. So I think he's got really high football IQ. I do think he is NFL ready in terms of the style and the way that he plays. He's not raw, and there's not a lot you go in. He needs to work on this, get better at that, do this, like sort of like with some of the others. I think it is all there. I think he's just a really good, solid plug in and play tight end, which is why I say that he's got a really, really high floor. Nussmeier really liked him. I think chain mover is what I'm going to use for him. I think that's why there's not the loads and loads of touchdowns for him, because I think he was just used in that sort of like to move the ball down the field, which is what you want, I think, from your tight end if that's what they're doing. And you've got to remember also the guys that he was competing against to get the ball in the end zone over his year span. You've had Malik Neighbors, you've had Brian Thomas, you've had Kyron Lacy, people like that, all on that team. So, was competing for catches. So I think his role that he did was great. And I think the NFL, like I said, I think they're really high on him, and I can understand why.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, it sounds like you're not being enthusiastic about these guys when you come out and say they're just reliable and good and solid and stuff like that. But yeah, exactly. They are. The point is that they are all sort of like they are all capable of starting in the NFL. That's what we're talking about here. So this is where we were saying at the beginning. The depth of the class is just so much more than what it was last year. So yeah, I think. These guys, like I say, they're just not exciting. That's the problem. But but they are, for a team that is tight end needy, they will be able to sort of like fill up that space pretty easily. And I think a lot of them will be like day one starters.
I think it's really fair to say that anything Elijah Arroyo upwards on this list would have been the tight end 2 in last year's class.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there just wasn't anything, was there, after Bowers? That was the problem. So it's like it just goes to show how strong this one is. And it's like there'll be people out there that will come out and say that Fanning would be second as well because of his athletic ability and that sort of thing. So it's like there's plenty on here that are decent.
Well, in at number 3, we have got Gunnar Helm for the Texas Longhorns, 22, 6'5", 241 pounds. Last year's stats, 60 receptions, 786 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I think he was the most consistent receiver for the Texas Longhorns. We've already discussed 2 of them, and I feel like this was the guy of the 3 that was the most consistent. I think, he's got good ball skills. He's a really shifty route runner. I do think his blocking could be better, but we've got 2 of their wide receivers in our top 10 wide receivers, and this guy was probably their best player. So why are we not higher on him? I'm higher on him because I think I'm the only person who's got him 3 on a list. I think he's a lot lower on most people's lists. Adam, do you like what you saw?
Yeah, I feel like he's Mason Taylor and Terrence Ferguson. I feel like there's not a great deal difference here. He is slightly improved compared to them. I wouldn't have them all exactly the same, but I think to me he's a little bit better. But it's pretty much all the same stuff. He's got a good size and frame. I think he's a strong worker. He can separate really well, which is good. got great reliable hands, really good yards after the catch. So he's got all of them traits that the other guys have got as well. I do think he's got maybe a couple more moves than the other guys haven't. He uses stiff arm really well. He jukes really well. He hurdles. You see that more from him than any of the others. So I do think he's a little bit more athletic than what the other guys are, which is probably why I'd have him just above them, but not that far above them. His blocking definitely needs to improve. It's not very good. I feel like he could be stronger. That's something which I feel like he has the like he could put more weight on. He could be stronger, and I feel like he's not. His speed is just not quick enough for the vertical threat that you want him to be. So I feel like that's a bit of a issue as well. Not much production apart from last year. Last year was good. But before that, there wasn't a great deal. But then obviously he's at Texas and they are a bit running back first. So you wouldn't really expect them,
especially
to have loads.
Prior to last year.
Yeah, like Bijan, Roschon, Johnson and all that. So yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. But I do feel like he is just that little bit better than the previous two. I think he's very early round 3, maybe late round 2. I think is probably fair for him. So yeah, I kind of agree that I think he's a little bit better and that he should be put higher than them. I would probably have Arroyo as my number 3, but once you get past him, I think this would be the next one. So yeah, I think he could be very good in the NFL. Again, he's another one that just needs a bit of overall refinement on everything, and I think he'd be all right. Kind of compared him to Isaiah Likely. Just a little, that's the one that I like the most for him, and I think he could be really good. He could have a career like Isaiah Likely does.
He's decent in the red zone as well. I thought he was a better option than some of them. In at number 2, now we're into the big boys here because there's 2 decent, very very good, talented tight ends in this draft, and we have got Tyler Warren at 2. A bit controversial. Most people have him as number 1. Tyler Warren from Penn State, Nittany Lions, 22, 6'6", 256 pounds. Last year's stats, you can see them right there. 104 receptions, 1,233 yards, 8 touchdowns. The production is there. To be fair, let's go with the backstory. I don't know if you know the backstory of him, Adam. You might have done a bit of research into it. He was a quarterback in high school, and then when he was recruited, he was recruited to Penn State to play basketball, not to play American football. And as a lot of players do want to get to college, we've seen a few of them, Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, they all played. LeBron James did a bit of both. Moving from that sort of really tall basketball player to tight end is quite an easier transition than maybe some of the other positions on the field. I think he was a lot lighter as well when he was recruited. I don't think he was anywhere near that 250. I think he was sort of just over 2. So he has bulked up quite a bit. And I think it took him till this year to get to there because there's no production prior to this year from him at all. He didn't beat out Theo Johnson or Brenton Strange, who we're seeing in the NFL already, who were both there on the depth chart with him. Used in a lot of plays. I think there's no wide receivers at Penn State for me. Their best wide receiver is probably a guy that Ohio State didn't want in Julian Fleming, who's going to go into the draft, and we've not spoke about him. So I think this guy was all the offense, and the quarterback is very good. So I think that's it. But he was used in tight end. He was used as a running back, and he was also used as the quarterback as well, which had been a former quarterback. Makes sense. So Adam, lots to love about this guy. Only 1 year of it. Do you think he should be the number 1, or do you think we've got this right?
I've got him down as my number 1. I can understand why you haven't, because it is just 1 year production, really, as the title. So I do get it, and actually there are a few concerns for him. I think he's got I think he'll be in the top half of the first round. I think teams will he could even get into top 10. I think there are teams out there who do really like him and think that he's going to be great. He's very athletic, tight end. He's got great hands, really quick footwork, sharp route runner, real physical runner as well. He's really good for yards after the catch. Good in the red zone. Pretty decent blocker. He could be better at it, but he's a pretty decent blocker as well. He's pretty much got everything that you want for the type of tight end that you're starting to see more and more now in the NFL. And I think that's probably why teams are going to love him. His top speed isn't particularly great. His change of direction could definitely be quicker. And he needs to maintain his blocks for longer than what he does when he does block. But they're pretty much the weaknesses that I've got for him. I think a lot of that can be refined and can be sorted out in the NFL. I've got Pat Freiermuth for him again. Michael Mayer was another one. Michael Mayer's another one that I kind of quite liked for him. So, yeah, he's very, very, very good. And I can completely understand why the way that the NFL is now compared to what it used to be, why many people have him as number one compared to who you have as number one.
Well, yeah, maybe, but I think what I've got an issue with, and I shouldn't have an issue because this is not fair on Tyler Warren at all, but a lot of people are thinking that he's going to be the next Brock Bowers. I think because
he's not going to be that.
Because his usage at Penn State he was used like Brock Bowers.
Yeah. People
are going, oh, well, look at the stats. He's going to be the next Brock Bowers. And he's just not. He's just not that threat. He's not that, no. You know, after he gets the ball, he's nowhere near as talented as Brock Bowers is. I do worry that he was a bit gimmicky. I do worry that he could fall into that sort of Taysom Hill category. He's a lot bigger than Taysom Hill, but that kind of like, we'll use him everywhere, but not in one place all the time sort of thing, which does worry me a little bit. It was just the sheer fact there's only 1 year of the production and he hadn't played the sport sort of like at that level before. And why didn't he beat out the others, which we've seen in the NFL? If he is that talented, you would have been going, let's use him all the time before, because there wasn't any wide receivers there prior to that either. And that's my worry. Whereas the guy I've got at one, I've seen it more consistently. So
no, I completely understand it. To a certain degree, I do agree with that, and I do get where you're coming from, because the problem is it's not exactly like Theo Johnson's been a world beater in his first year in the NFL either. So it's like there is reasons that are understandable for why that's the case. And like you say, it's just a 1 year amount of production for him. So it's not like you're seeing like a whole college career of him being amazing. So I do completely get it. I just think that the way that the NFL is going, and also the way that the tight end position is going as well, it feels like it's almost like the dirty work isn't as important as what it used to be. And so the fact that this guy is kind of a bit more of an athletic, kind of like a souped up wide receiver, it kind of feels like he's a little bit more than what your number one is in that respect.
Yeah, that was fair. But number one, they're both going to be first round players.
Yeah.
I think they're both going to be exciting to watch. So, you know, I'm not saying I've got him at 2 because I think he's rubbish. I'm not saying that at all. In at number 1, we have got, have we? Does it want to move? There's no number 1. He's gone. I know where he is. He's there.
Hey.
It's Colston Loveland from the Michigan Wolverines. You know, at number 1, and I'm an Ohio State fan, and I put on Michigan Wolverine at number 1. So he's got to be good. He's 20 years old. He's 6'6". He's 249 pounds. Last year, his stats were 56 receptions, 582 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I think his stats are not as good as Warren's because the fact we talked about Warren had Drew Aller. Warren was on a good team. Last year, the Michigan Wolverines were woeful. They went through 3 quarterbacks. One of the quarterbacks that they used in Alex Orji was only ever ran the ball and never passed it. And it was just a bit of a shambles there. Either way, he was still their main pass catching option. Absolute one thing that you like, he's got a massive wingspan. He's got absolute, his speed is there. I think he's going to be an absolute mismatch nightmare for a lot of NFL teams. And if are you going to put a safety on him to mark him? I'm not so sure. I'm not. I think that might be tough. So he's been playing with a shoulder injury. Has that got to have shoulder surgery? I think that you've also got to take that into context, because I think he was told a lot last year, after you catch the ball, go down, because we cannot risk you not playing the whole season. You're our only option on offense. So I think you got to go back and watch a bit more tape because from previous years, because there is that, I think you're going to say doesn't do a lot after the catch probably, but there is that he can do that, and it is there. It's just he played all of last year hurt with that shoulder injury and was still impressive for me. I've got Dalton Kincaid down for him as a comparison, which he's had a fair bit of success in the NFL. So I feel like that's the style he is.
Yeah, I've got him as good for yards after the catch. I thought he wasn't too bad. I kind of saw a couple of years of him, obviously, because he's played for more than what Tyler Warren had, so there was a bit more tape on him. But yeah, I felt like his yards after the catch was all right. The one thing I really liked was his feet. His footwork was really good, very quick, nimble, explosive footwork. Obviously, as you were saying, reliable hands, good for contested catches in the red zone. I think he's a solid blocker. I think he could probably improve. He definitely needs to. He needs to improve pass protection and stuff like that. He needs to improve it. But I felt like he was a pretty solid blocker. I think he's quite versatile, like positionally. I think you can put him pretty much anywhere. Yeah, he can do it all, so he's good for that. Good in scrambling plays as well, which is something you don't see so much with tight ends, but he was good for that. My 2 biggest issues with him was I felt like he didn't really overpower defenders, and I feel like that's where he could kind of maybe get a bit more strength in him. He's a little bit smaller weight-wise than, say, like Tyler Warren, so that was something that was a bit of a difference one. And then I just kind of felt like he kind of lacked separation a little bit, but then maybe that's where you're looking at, he, like you were saying, he gets the ball, he goes down, so it's almost like he's not getting that separation from them. He's not sort of like exploding past anyone. So I kind of felt like he struggled with that a little bit, but he's definitely a first round pick. He's a very, very good tight end. I had Tucker Kraft for him.
Another very talented.
Yeah. So that's where I had for him. But I think the top 2 are actually very, very close. And in a way, whoever gets them is going to be happy. I don't think it's really much of an issue.
It doesn't matter which way around you put them, does it? They're both going
to be... not really. No, and actually, I know a lot of people, and I know we're not doing fantasy, but a lot of people come out and go, "Oh, you definitely want Tyler Warren in fantasy over Loveland," and I don't really see it myself. I think they're both just as good as one another. I don't think there is a clear number 1 in any like fantasy or in real life NFL. I kind of feel like they're both very good, really I like both of them. I thought they looked really good. So yeah, I think any team would be happy to have them.
I think going into the draft process, before the year started, he was everybody's number 1, wasn't he? He was the guy that everyone was talking about last year behind Brock Bowers. They were the 2 tight ends that everyone talked about. And then obviously Brock Bowers went into the NFL. Loveland was left there, and everyone's going, well, he'll be the next one. And it's not, if it wasn't for the fact of the season that Warren had, I think he would clearly be at number one still. So I think that's got to play into it a bit. I think people are forgetting what he did prior to the fact they were awful on offense this year, and he's playing with an injury. So hopefully that shoulder, I know it's not serious shoulder injury that he's got, so hopefully that doesn't hinder him too much. But that's our tight ends. Again, lots to get excited about. As we said, we reckon that majority of this list would have made tight end 2 on last year's list, and there was a couple of guys we liked on there that we thought might do more. I think Sanders and Bell and Sinnott didn't quite live up to the standard we thought, but they were all really raw sort of, we think he might. I think there's a lot of guys on here are definitely plug in and play, and off they pop.
I think the majority of these guys are going to be gone before day 3 as well. Mm-hmm. I think you are looking round 1, 2, and 3 for quite a lot of these guys, which is quite rare for tight end to be able to come up with a list of. There's probably 8 that have got really good chances of these 10 of being done by the end of day round 3, which is, it is quite rare that you get that many go. So, but it does just go to show how strong and deep the class is.
I know we talked about fantasy a little bit during this, but I've seen a lot of people putting them in Dynasty at sort of that anywhere between 106 and 110, which is like before some of the wide receivers in this. So I think that shows the level of talent that they're projected to be as well. But I hope I've not given anything too much away there.
Sure, I won't be going for them.
There we go. You're fine. You're stacked in that position. Adam, that is our tight ends. We will be back again with the O-line very, very soon. But till then, keep it with the franchise tag and see you again very soon.